Hello, everyone. My guest today is Mike Adams. He's the CEO and co-founder of Grain, a tool that empowers remote teams to record, transcribe, annotate, and share the most important moments from virtual meetings in a highlight reel. He previously co-founded Degreed and Mission U, which was acquired by WeWork. Mike believes that recorded conversations and the spoken knowledge they generate fundamentally expand our ability to listen, empathize, and connect with each other. Mike, you ready to take us to the top?
I'm very excited to.
All right. So you get an exit at WeWork. By the way, was that sort of a life-changing event that allows you to take bigger risks now, or is that sort of just a nice sort of flat exit for everybody?
It's a flat exit for everybody. And the big win I got was discovering the need and ultimately the product for Grain that I'm building now over solving my own, my own need for 2 years building an online school. And so our students were able to actually get absolved of their income share agreements and still, for the most part, get jobs. And so it ended up being kind of a win-win for everybody.
So what happened to that? That sounds very interesting. Is that the one WeWork bought?
Yeah, so WeWork bought Mission U, fully remote on the back of Zoom, started in 2016. So we were one of the first fully embracing the remote, learning environment and cohort-based model. And we ran into a lot of regulatory challenges at the state of California that has since made extremely clear that their position is that income share agreements, where you pay a portion of your income in the future once you get a job, and only if you get a job, that's aligned with the students, that those were not actually legal in the state of California. They took a kind of an anomalistic stance on that. So that created a lot of challenges for our business. We looked forward to our ability to return venture, to make a venture outcome, and ultimately made a determination that an acquisition was the best situation for us.
How much did you raise at that company?
We raised $11.5 million.
Got it. Cool. So I imagine a lot. This just sort of going to WeWork stock.
Yeah, so it went into WeWork stock. Our investors got, we still had $8.5 million in the bank. So we made a call. It's not like we ran out of the money. We looked at the future and we said, this ability for us to actually deliver on the projections that we made up front, given the change in climate, given, a lot of the, kind of unit economics that we were learning over the next couple of years, we looked at it and we said, I think it's actually, best for our investors to, get as much of the money back as they can, and then the rest was made up for in WeWork stock. I had the opportunity to start a new company.
I would say kudos to you for doing that. I mean, right, there are so many founders I know that they see the writing on the wall, but they feel stuck because they've raised VC money. They don't want the negative headline, right, if they shut the company down. But ultimately, the biggest opportunity cost for anybody is your time, right? So you don't want to waste, even though you have $8.5 million, you can pay yourself, you can pay your team. You don't want to do that for years. So kudos to you for doing the right thing there and getting that out. Grain is born. What year did you start coding Grain?
So the acquisition from WeWork was in 2019. And so I started full-time on Grain September 1st. So my obligation through the WeWork acquisition was expired August 31st of 2019. And I started Grain September 1st. So we raised some venture capital right out the gate from a lot of the people who backed me in the past. They still were big believers in me, and they really loved the vision that we had, because I was building Grain just to solve the same problem for future people that I'd solved for myself, building a school in the back of Zoom. The insight I discovered was that spoken information, it's unstructured, it's largely ephemeral, it's usually not even captured, but it is the key to being able to bridge the gap in the future of work between between remote, synchronous and asynchronous communication. So asynchronous communications tends to be text-based, and the medium is usually the documentation. I wrote the message. Go and search the Slack logs. The same is not true of the synchronous spoken world, but it is true if you record it, if you transcribe it, if you make that content searchable. But you need a new kind of wave of tools or software that can make it as easy to work with the content of spoken knowledge as it is to work with the content of written knowledge. And so that's kind of how Grain was born. I started it with my brother, who was the first employee at Branch Metrics. And so he had a 4-year, unicorn run as the first employee there.
Do you guys split equity 50-50, or do you have more?
We split slightly less, slightly different, but very close to 50.
Like 51-49 sort of situation?
That's very close.
No, you want to have good Thanksgivings moving forward. So there's
exactly.
a clear leader. You can't tie.
Yeah, we'll say I have been a co-founder twice, and Jake and I are dramatically closer to 50-50 than I ever was as a first-time co-founder, even a second-time co-founder. So.
Fair. Okay, how much did you raise in that first round?
We raised, so what we did on our financing is we did about $1 million right out the gate, with just us and a pitch deck, and a vision and a belief. And that was on like a safe. And then we did a priced round about 9 months later. So this is uh, uh, fall of, oh, I'm sorry, this all started in 2018, not 2019.
Okay.
So it was
that million was 2018.
It was 2018. So it was fall of 2018. Mission U got acquired in 2018. So it's about almost 3 years ago, Mission U got acquired. And then we did a seed round 9 months later in 2019. So this is a year before the pandemic. And we were onto this kind of trend. We knew it was inevitable. And then the pandemic has just really accelerated it. And then we did a follow-on round that hasn't been announced yet, but it's with Freestyle Capital. And so we did an additional $3 million on a safe there after the price round. So it's been about $7 million total that we've raised. And our team is about 15 people.
Yep. So just to be clear, so there's 7 total. 4 is unannounced, but with Freestyle. 1 was at the beginning. Or sorry, 3 was with Freestyle.
So it's at the 1 at the beginning,
then 3.
and then 3 in a price round. That 4 was announced, and we've raised an additional 3 that has not yet been announced.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, so let me ask about that, right? When you do make that announcement, people will go, well, wait a second. It's very rare you see a priced round, and then going back to unpriced, they'll go, wait, was there a down round they're trying to manage through here? What's the story there?
Yeah, the story was an up round with amazing investor on amazing terms, and we wanted to work together very, very, on quickly. So what happened is we launched on TechCrunch a year after that price round. Right. This is about a month after the pandemic, and we made a positioning bet to say we're on the back of Zoom. We are the Zoom app. When you think about Zoom apps, think of Grain. So we had a TechCrunch launch, and then one of the investors that I had really had a great experience with, her name's Jenny Lefcourt at Freestyle VC a year before. It timing-wise didn't work out for her to lead the priced round, but she really wanted to get involved a year later. And so this was a really easy way. We had a huge amount of insider interest. And so the rest of it was just bought up by insiders. So that's where we did the 3 million, and they took like a much bigger check than they would normally do, just because she was so eager and excited to work with Grain, and we got really nice, up terms on it as well. So it's just a
when you look
clean,
at it,
simple, easy way to get more capital.
It was the cap higher than your last priced round. Is that
exactly? Yeah, substantially higher.
Interesting. Okay, very cool. Let's dig more to the product, because I think this is interesting, right? When I had Sid from GitLab on, he said the reason he has all of his companies, all of his team members post meetings, even private meetings on YouTube, is if you go to their YouTube channel, you'll see you can open the transcript that Google automatically does and search the meetings quickly. You're sort of doing that, but in a much sort of more formal way, and you're building a business around it. You're using it right now, actually, on this call. So what is Grain?
That's right.
How does it work?
Yeah, so Grain taps into this recognition that the tools for the spoken world that we live in are primarily designed to facilitate the conversation, not to facilitate the transfer of information across the bounds of synchronous and asynchronous work. That's where Grain comes in, is that we recognize that while like what GitLab does, where you can upload videos and these artifacts, if you record it all, the world is open to you. But Grain takes it one step further and recognizes that you're doing cognitive processing. You're identifying moments in time that matter. That moment mattered. And instead, we don't have the time to go back after the call and rewatch all the time. It's nice that we have that option, and that's kind of the GitLab approach. Where we come in is we give you a real-time annotation layer. You can take notes like you would normally take notes in a Notion or an Evernote or whatever else, but they get timestamps, and you can and they get turned into highlights. So you can share a moment of that you identified or flagged as important in the moment as it happens, independent of the underlying recording.
So where do I, literally right now, you're telling me some fun stories, and I'm taking notes in my Apple Notes app on the left side of my screen right now. Where would I do that where it gets integrated with Grain? Literally, if I was using it now, how would I do that?
So you download Grain onto your desktop, and you can actually use it on the web here in a couple of weeks. And we hook into Zoom to where when you are recording, either through Zoom or through our native recorder, there is a notepad that is live for the time that you are recording. As soon as you stop recording, the notepad goes away, and it takes the content that you identified or flagged as important, and it brings it into your web app, where it synchronizes it with the transcript, with the full recording, and it becomes this like iMovie for the web, where you can create and edit the video itself and create highlight clips using just the transcripts. You select the text you want from the transcript, and you pull that out, and it becomes like a Loom-like link where you can embed it, you can share it anywhere you want, or you can turn any of your notes into a highlight with a single click.
Okay, if I fall in love with this thing, what's the average customer paying you guys to use this technology per month?
Yeah, totally. So we have 2 plans. So there's a pro plan, which is $144 a year. And then we have a unlimited plan, which is $436 a year per creator seat. So Grain is a tool for teams from default. So we don't have this idea of Grain of like, well, there's this individual kind of usage and the team usage. It's like it's built to be used by and for and with your teams from the very beginning. And so you can have your entire team on Grain and not actually have to pay for everybody who's in there, who's accessing and like getting value out of viewing the content and having this like centralized source of spoken knowledge for the team. You pay a license for those that are contributing and adding and editing the content in there. So if you just view it and you want view only, that's a free seat. But if you're contributing and collaborating and editing and adding new recordings, you get an allocation of recordings according to your license type, whether that be pro, it has a set number of recordings, or unlimited. Unlimited, you can use use it on every one of your calls.
So what's the sweet spot, Mike? What's a team on average paying you, right? Because you're looking at number of seats and then the plan they're on to get up that average. Are we talking like $100 a month?
Yeah, totally. So we find that it ends up being, depending on the team, the average team is about 3 people right now. So it's growing a lot. We have some teams that are, dozens and dozens of people. We have some teams that are 3. So our self-serve model, we don't have a sales team yet. We're just kind of, you sign up for Grain, you start using it, and you can grow and expand that usage. The average team right now is about 3 paid
so
users.
at 3 at 12 a month, you're talking about like $36 per month.
Yeah, so it's pretty cheap. Exactly. So it depends on how much you need to use it. And so what we found is that teams come into Grain with one of 2 mentalities. It's either I want a very specific use case in mind where I want to use Grain instead of like the regular Zoom recording, or instead of uploading my files and transcribing them, and I use it for like user research interviews or whatever. And oftentimes those teams find themselves selecting into like the pro plan. We're like, okay, that's enough allocation for me. And then there's this other group of teams that like, we use Grain for everything. We use it for hiring interviews. We use it for team meetings. We use it for sales calls. We use it for customer success and support. And we also use it for customer research and for interviews. And those teams don't want to have to think about like, oh, well, like, is this one going to cost me? Am I going to like have to pay more because? And so that's why we've created our unlimited plan, is you just embrace this record by default mindset. And then you pay Grain for your service, and then you just are kind of living almost in a new way of operating in the knowledge economy, where you can make use out of your spoken knowledge without ever having to think about
Mike,
it.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we're running short on time. There's a bunch more that I want to learn. So you got your first customer back in 2018. It's really yourself, right? You're building this for yourself. Help us understand how you scale today. How many customers are you serving now? Yes,
right now. So we have several hundred paying accounts, and then across that, we have a lot of users per account. And so we right now are we have well over 10,000 that have signed up for the product, and are obviously you can kind of calculate our conversion rates from there. And so we are a freemium based product that has.
Well, Mike, I actually don't know, obviously. Like I've had Loom on, I've had a bunch of folks on. The conversion rates from freemium to paid are always all over the place. It can be as low as 1% and still working, can be as low as high as 5%. Where are you guys coming in? Yeah, so on an account basis, we have it ends up being at about a 3% conversion rate on the new companies that come in and that are getting into a paid account. And are you happy with that conversion rate from free to paid?
So it's a great place to start, but we believe that we can go upwards of 10% on that conversion rate. Like Slack has like a 25% conversion rate to paid, and we believe, because we're a team-based product, that as the functionality grows and the power and the usage of Grain grows, our conversion rate will continue to increase.
So Mike, can I take 300, that's about 3%, 300 teams, right, times an average of 3 per team on that pro plan, 12 per seat. So 300 times 36, you guys are about $11,000 a month right now on MRR. There's also a split of people who are on there's also a split of people who are on the unlimited plan. So there's the $12 a month. We're about 50-50 between people who are on unlimited and people who are on the pro. And so the average account tends to be a bit higher than that. Yeah. So you're maybe closer to like 20 or 30K in MRR. Do you think you can break $1 million run rate by the end of this year?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for us, the growth rate is continuing to grow and increase. We've just begun to tap the market. Mm-hmm. And so we're absolutely on track for that being our goal this year.
And what sort of gives you that confidence? I mean, where did you get significant growth over the past 12 months? What was that growth rate?
Yeah, so I mean, we just turned on pricing in like at the end of last year, the very end of last year. Oh, so you didn't have any? You were pre-revenue last year. We were pre-revenue last year.
Oh wow, okay, got it.
So we just turned on pricing. We don't have a sales team; it's all self-serve. And so what we've done is proved that like there's a tremendous amount of willingness to pay an economic value that businesses are getting by using our product. And so as we layer in more and more of our go-to-market team, where we are adding in our inside sales team and eventually adding in an outside sales team.
And what's the team today, Mike? How many people?
It's all engineering and product and design.
But how many people total? 50?
15, yeah.
15?
Mm-hmm.
How many engineers?
So of that, it's there's 3 that are not. So myself and then 2 others that are not.
So heavy engineering. You're the sales guy right now. Talk to me about churn. It's obviously critical in this sort of business.
Yeah. So what we found is that those teams that have reached the threshold of either 5 highlight. So there's 5 people on the workspace. Those teams don't churn. So like once you've established that there's a core use case for Grain, we found a less than a 10% churn rate there across time. Like, and we've had those teams for well over a year now. And so a lot for us, our challenge of what we're focused on over the next year is getting activation rates increased and higher. And by getting you faster to that time of aha, where you're like, oh my gosh, like I can never go back to a pre-Grain world. Like, how did I ever let all this information go ephemeral? Whether that be you use a research interview, a podcast interview, a hiring interview, a team meeting, et cetera. And so the teams that reach that threshold are they stick around.
Yeah. Look, I imagine one of them. A mistake I would argue in a business like yours is you think the utility value is number of recordings, right? And that's actually what you priced against. But really, if I start using your tool and then I hit a paywall because I'm automatically recording everything, but I haven't actually figured out how to use the recording to utility value, I'm going to churn. So like, isn't the real question what you're doing with the recordings, not how many recordings you've done?
Yeah, totally. So baked into that stat is that because if you reach a recording threshold, and the fact is that those that reach the recording threshold are not churning, the product has established value. Like by virtue of the fact that you're adding recordings into the system, those users are experiencing the value, which usually comes from sharing. As soon as I create a piece of content that's derivative, not sharing the whole entire recording, but a piece of that recording, and I drop that in Slack or embed it in Notion or I put it in Airtable, that is where our engagement metrics are focused, is on the percentage of people who are coming into the product and are creating content that gets shared externally, and then that gets viewed. And that's the like aha magical moment that I have as a Grain user, is like, oh my gosh, this was valuable to you. Like I created something in this amazing tool and then you got value out of that. I'm going to do that more often. I'm going to do it in more areas. And so we see that account expansion for those teams that reach that engagement threshold.
Well, Mike, we're out of time. Congratulations, guys. Check out grain.co. Automatically record and highlight important moments in your Zoom meetings. They are basically just turned on revenue about a year ago. They launched back in 2018 with $1 million round. They raised $7 million to date as they look to break $1 million in ARR this year, serving 300 accounts and many, many more users inside of those accounts. Mike, thanks for taking us to the top.
Hey, thanks a lot, Nathan.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers, they try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company, or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them, and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.